Welcome back, everybody, to Light Talk, where everyone can be themselves and tell their own unique paranormal and spiritual journey stories with and experiences with a safe and supportive community. If you have a story you want to share, uh, please email me lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. And we are going to have a great time today. We have a fabulous guest with us, and I am so excited to have her on the show. So we are going to welcome her and hand the mic over. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Miss Dana. How are you today?
I am doing well, and thank you.
Good. So my name is Beth Beyer, and my work and reason for Dana and I sharing a bit this afternoon is my work as a spiritual hypnotherapist. I'm trained in quantum healing hypnosis technique, as well as life between lives and between lives soul regression. So with those in mind, I see clients regularly for either in person or Zoom sessions. And typically, clients come in because they've got a question about their life, and it may be, am I on the right path? Actually, that's probably one of the most popular reasons that people come into my office. Do I have a soulmate? Are these people in my soul family? Career choices, life choices, and what am I doing? That it's like we all get to pick. There's free will, right? But
That's right.
not everybody has the wherewithal, understanding, or has made the choice to check in with their spirit team or their guide, whatever one chooses to label the group upstairs that helps us out all the time. So people come to my office basically to do that. And one of the things that I do is connect them in, depending upon the protocol, if it's quantum healing, connect them with their subconscious. And otherwise, it may be called the higher self, their soul, and their guardians, their angels, depending upon whether they are, and really, I've had clients from left to right. So people who have like no belief system to people who are very evangelical Christian. And for those folks, I try to find the right labels that work for them. For some of them, the response is maybe this is just a story that your soul would like to tell you. And go with the metaphor, right? I mean, from a Jungian psychology perspective, instead of, okay, and this is your past life and this is who you were. So, right, finding the right terminology to meet people's needs.
Yeah. And I think that is a great way to look at it because everybody has their own story and their own
Right.
um, story to tell, their own journey, their own everything. So nothing's the same. And whatever you get to say for the person
Yeah.
is their story. It's not
Right.
your story. It's not my story. It's no one's but theirs. I love it. I love it. That's really cool.
Yeah. And for those folks who've got questions, which is typically the sort of like the grounding cord of the session, my role is merely to ask more questions, open-ended questions. I don't direct exactly. My comment to my clients is, you're the driver, I'm the navigator. I kind of know where we're headed, but maybe you want to go someplace different. I might suggest a straight ahead and they may want to turn left. And I'm like, okay, wherever we're going, that's great. Just really to be a cheerleader for folks. So that's kind of one of the things that I find fascinating is that underneath there is like we all have that connection to the divine in whatever form or fashion that comes.
Yeah.
So that's to me, every client is like a flower and they're all unique or like a book and they've got their own story. And I'm like, I'm fascinated. I mean, really, my work, I have to say, is fascinating. So Lots of hypnotherapy information out there, whether it's Gaia TV has Journey of the Soul, or Dolores Cannon's got 17 books, or Michael Newton's many books, Linda Backman's several books on
Mhm.
what these kinds of journeys entail. So one of the things I
Yeah.
thought that might be helpful for your group, your listeners, your viewers to notice is kind of what that journey might be like in case they're at some point interested. There's actually a number of people who do like past life regression that are on YouTube. And a past life is often our ticket into the spirit world. So if we listen to quantum physics and believe that everything is happening now and here, it's just a matter of turning our focus a little bit. So the role in my work is often to get people into that place where brain waves, like every morning when we wake up, every night when we go to sleep, it's the same. You and I are talking, Dana, and your folks out there are either viewing or listening to your information. So we're in beta brainwaves, but that little dreamy state where you're kind of like, oh yeah. How many of us have done that when we were listening to a lecture somewhere
Yeah.
or driving down the road? Yes, right. Oops,
Yeah.
missed that exit. Okay, that's alpha. So it's very easy to get into, and we do that
Mhm.
also every evening when we go to sleep. We're very relaxed. Alpha is the next level. That's just that daydreamy. Even a good book or movie will put us into alpha. And that's interestingly where past lives live. They're pretty easy to get to. It's just a matter of asking the client, what do you notice? Where are you now? What are you wearing? Those
Mhm.
kinds of questions done in the right rhythm, in the basically the right path, will allow someone to expand their subconscious, their soul, to find those answers, which is just to me fascinating. So if we get people a little bit deeper into hypnosis, then they're in theta, and that's that state right before sleep. And that's when you're so relaxed that you can think about moving, but you really sometimes even can't move. It's like, oh, so relaxed right before sleep. That's where the life between lives, the soul world, spirit world lives. And
Okay.
getting people into that really deep kind of trance is the, shall I say, the most interesting part of my work, to find out what people do following a past life and a past life death, which is the bridge to spirit world. So that's kind of my work these days. Anyway,
And that,
I was going to
yeah,
screen
that's
share and
fascinating. I know it's so cool.
it's so cool. Oh my gosh. Okay, so
I love it.
um, let me, if it's okay now, to go ahead and share screen, and then we'll go over the one slide that I've got that will probably give us a little bit more guidance and kind of the overview of what that's like. So
Yeah, go for it.
let me kind of work on that. All right. This is part of a lecture that I do. Okay, so are we up? Are we on?
We're up and we're on.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so we all know and like you can probably see my little cursor here, wand, birth, right? If I
Oh,
move it.
yep. Yep.
Yep, okay. All right, so we all recognize and understand we're born, bringing us into this world. And interestingly, my understanding is between birth and about 7 years old, kids live much of their time in theta. So they are so open. That's why we'll have information coming through these kids, especially perhaps these days kids, where they remember past lives. Often in our Western culture, where people are raising their children, they may not recognize or think about those other friends that the children have are their guides potentially, or their past lives that they describe. There's a number of pieces of literature, information, studies where, in fact, there was one written by an attorney, don't remember his name off the top, but his presentation is, if this were a courtroom, look at all the evidence. It's very clear past lives are a thing. Many Americans are now sort of recognizing that that's likely a truth. Yet, of course, there are many religions that hold back on that kind of a notion. So, at any rate, between birth and about 7, kids are very open and they're very able to tap into that. So, here we are in our incarnation on Earth, living our lessons, dealing potentially with karma. And let me clarify that and say, when we're on the other side, we choose themes and contracts that we're going to come into this life and do. And while there is free will, we can choose how we've chosen we're going to go down a hallway, but we could choose how we go down that hallway. Maybe we veer off to the right, or maybe we take a skateboard and go down the hallway, or maybe we walk down it backwards. But essentially, we've signed up for certain lessons, certain themes, and that, while not exactly destiny, not exactly karma, it's kind of our path in this lifetime. So contracts are actually an interesting piece. People may choose to work out various issues that they've had from past lives. We don't necessarily incarnate in the same roles time after time. A husband in this life may have been a wife in a past life, or a sibling, or a child, but often it's close relationship, and those kinds of things get carried on further and further. So, and of course, being in service, that is sort of a fundamental piece of why we come in to planet Earth, which my understanding is from clients, and really the interesting piece is there are literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of practitioners doing this kind of work, of case studies. So it's not just me out here as the lone person. Dr. Michael Newton, when he did his first work, he published with 7,000 cases personally under his belt. So obviously he knew what he was talking about when he provided the information, and the schools that have been set up to teach practitioners about this kind of work. So at any rate, again, not just me, plenty more folk. So here we are, the third dimensional physical plane, and at the time of death, completing whatever work we signed up to do in this lifetime, returning to spirit form, and leaving the physical body behind. Our soul continues, and depending upon how you want to view that, in some form or fashion, when we typically, we have done at least one past life session with that client in the past, because there's a lot of things that need to get addressed typically. Sometimes people bring into this lifetime trauma that they've held from a past life. It may have been a traumatic death. It may have been sadness or regret, or some other anger. Whatever they dealt with, particularly when people have been in war or soldiers in the past and may have died suddenly, sometimes that trauma may follow them. In particular, I recall the classic case of Dr. Newton, his very first case, and Dr. Newton was not a very avid religious man to begin with. So his very first client, and he was a very by the book kind of psychologist, came to him for shoulder pain. And the guy says, I've had this shoulder pain, and they've done all these, x-rays and MRIs and whatnot, and they can't find anything wrong with me. So Dr. Newton puts him under and says, go to the first time that you had this shoulder pain. And the guy goes back to World War I. He has a different name. He has a different uniform. He's in a different country. And Newton is like
That's
floored because he's like, I don't believe in this stuff, right? So he gets
you
this
froze up.
guy.
Okay, there
And what's that?
you froze up for a second there.
Oh, goodness. Am I back?
You're back. You're
Okay.
back.
All right. So Dr. Newton gets every piece of information. What does your uniform look like? What's your name? What's your rank? Where exactly are you in what battle? And Dr. Newton calls up the War Office in London and says, I want to know if there was this particular private or sergeant, and here's his name, and here's what happened. And sure enough, every single detail was, the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted. And after the guy knew that he had been bayoneted in the shoulder, causing this terrible pain, and Dr. Newton was able to bring that to light for his conscious mind in this lifetime, the pain went away. So that's kind of the fascinating piece of work and why we go back and do a past life regression before doing a life between lives kind of session.
That's
But we're going
really
to,
interesting.
isn't it? I mean, I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
who knew?
yeah. Because I have pain in my body that I don't know completely if it was from this life or something else. Because I'm not sure it was something that I did as a child because I was always popping my knuckles or knees or something. But
We can talk when we get off of our
hey,
session here, and I will be glad to address that. I might put on the nurse hat, or I might put on the hypnotherapist hat to sort of track that and see what's going on with that. But I'm happy
awesome.
to
That'd
look
be
at that with
great.
you. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. Happy to do that. All right. So moving through a regular session, one of the first places that we stop is often called Gateway Park. And at the Gateway, people are met by their loved ones. And this can be either a past life regression or a between lives session, LBL. So in if it's an LBL, life between lives, people are often met by their guides, and guides come in various forms. You and I
Mhm.
know what a house looks like, but a house in the Arctic, a house in the Amazon, and a house in America are all going to look different. So guides, when they come in, they may look like someone the individual knows, because they would like us to be comfortable and familiar. It may or may not actually be that being. Sometimes I had one client where the guide had come in and looked like a ball of light, and the client was having difficulty hearing the ball of light. So I asked the guide if they could please put on a mask. And so the guide chose uh, a mask that was an elderly man with flowing white hair. Those, and they present with various energies. They can be obviously masculine, feminine, or neither, or both,
Great.
or ball of light. So it depends on what the individual's belief system is and what they're most comfortable with. But the one particular client could hear the grandfatherly person speaking with them after the mask got put on. So again, they come in various forms or fashions. So
Right.
reuniting with the higher self, there's part of our self that stays in the spirit realm. We only bring in a certain percentage. Again, Dr. Newton was a researcher, and 40 to 60% is often what we bring in. And another part of us is still learning in the spirit realm. So after the past life death, then merging with our higher selves, and then there's often a post life review. So, how was that life? Were the lessons learned? Were the themes completed? Was there still more that the individual soul needed or wants to learn about a particular situation? So, often there's healing that needs to be done. And because of that issue of past life trauma, perhaps, or various things that may have happened in this incarnation, deep grief, uh, regret,
Right.
all of those pieces. And healing, again, also comes in whatever the client's belief system or ability to notice what's going on from their subconscious. So some people see, like visually, right? It's kind of like dream time, right? We're not using our physical eyes when we dream, but yet we
Right.
still can vision, most of us. Some people don't have visuals. Some people sense or have a knowing, or they have a ticker tape that, tells them information, various ways that it comes in. Some people only feel. In other words, they don't have a visual, but it's literally like they can hear things, or like, for example, touch fabric. If it's a woman who's wearing a dress from the Middle Ages, it may have taffeta and it may be crinkly, and then they can feel it, touch it, and hear it. So for the healing and restoration place, those come in various forms. There may be beings of light assisting. There may be ribbons of color, or capsules, or bubbles, or water features. So again, that comes in all different forms or fashions. I kind of have, again, the map, but the client is going to tell me what they notice and what they see. So
Right.
then this is
Right.
kind of, yeah, is it like yeah, to me it's like, again, just because we each have our own way of interpreting the energy. If we're all literally into quantum physics and it's all light and energy, however we perceive that is kind of how that unfolds for folks.
Yeah, it's so amazing because it's like we say, it could go in
Right,
any
right.
direction, and the stories are all going to be so. I'm just so I get speechless when I talk about all this stuff because I'm just so excited
Yeah,
about it.
it's true.
It's yeah, and you just never know what's going to come about with a session, and it's just I
Right.
don't know. I just get so excited.
Good
I
stuff.
guess
Good stuff. Just great stuff
yes.
to sort of like, yeah, I mean, I think that is part of like our learning, like to learn from each other and to
Hmm.
to grow spiritually. I mean, we all believe in exercise and generally speaking, nutrition and whatever, but growing our soul is a whole like additional layer of our lives. So yeah. And
Right.
some people are totally into it with both feet. So me,
Right.
oh,
I've got my feet my toes in the water now, so
there you go.
I got a lot to
Perfect.
learn yet, but
Oh,
boy,
like,
that
right?
water feels good.
There's always more layers. There's always more to learn. So with
Yes.
regard to the next, after healing, the client will, depending upon what their questions are, this may determine where they end up next. The Hall of Records, also known as the library in Dr. Newton's language, or Akashic Records, people are often familiar with. Kind of like, the background that I have up is one vision. So those Hall of Records may look like many different things depending upon the client. I live in Reno, Nevada, and so one of my clients said, "Ah, this looks like the old library in Reno." And I'm like, cool. And then another client will come in and they'll say, or they'll come in by Zoom and they'll say, "Oh, this looks like a room filled with crystals. And all I have to do is touch the crystal and it vibrates and I get information." I'm like, ooh,
Mhm.
sounds interesting. Right.
You're right. Somebody's reading that room.
Yes, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So whether it looks like a Harry Potter library, or it looks like a room full of crystals, or living tapestry, is another one that is described like you can pull or touch a strand, and like that consciousness, which is light and shimmering and all of that kind of thing, is like just amazing. So that's Hall of Records. For some people, they literally will pull a book off a shelf, and that book may contain the information about their particular life, or it could be a portal to another world, or information that they need to help them with, whatever that is. So it's fascinating. Council of Elders is another station that people often go to. And interestingly, if you've read Richard Martini, interesting guy, he has a book entitled something about divine councils, the flip side court. And he's a fascinating guy. He's a videographer and he videoed Dr. Michael Newton, but he's really not a hypnotherapist yet. He will go up to somebody at a bar, at a party, in a restaurant, turn on his tape recorder and a friend or whatever, somebody he's contacted, and ask them questions about, okay, let's go to your divine council, because that alpha for some people is easy to get to, and theta is right there behind it in the brain waves. And he can get people to, and he wrote a book, just sharing divine councils, the flip side court, about what people's councils looked like, what they said to them. And to me,
Wow.
that's just right. I mean, just
Yeah.
fascinating stuff. So this work is being replicated by multiple people all over the world. It's not just like, for example, in my Life Between Lives WhatsApp group, in my classes, we had people all the way from Seoul, Korea to Austria to the UK to Croatia. My clients have come in from South America, from Mexico City, from I mean, basically all over the world. It's fascinating. Just anyway, so that.
We all
So
have the same story too. I mean, we all have the same interest and the same story. So it's not like a country division that only this country gets to have this type of experience, or only this country gets this, or whatever. No, no,
right, right.
we're all able to have
We
these.
all have
We all
commonality.
have it.
Like we all know what a house looks like, but
Right.
everybody's house may look different. We all have a
Mhm.
journey, but everybody's journey might be slightly, obviously different, and the choices that they've made to come in to learn in this lifetime. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so the soul purpose, the soul progress, soul guides. Guides will often take my client. I'll say, is there a place of higher wisdom we should go to? Where may that be? My client has certain questions that they would like to ask. What would be the best place to do that? It could be a park bench in Gateway Park, or it could be the library and they open a book, or it could be one of the many other places that are in the Between Lives section. This only has a couple of places listed. Um, and obviously, the most common are probably the Hall of Records, the Council of Elders. Soul Group is another one. Typically, people have a soul group that they learn with over millennia from a linear time standpoint. And people will go back to meet with their soul group. And the interesting piece is, from a physical recognition, they may not recognize these, however, the beings appear, balls of light, animals. Um,
Right.
they, but they have provided information to the client to know that this is their group. They may just be putting on a particular mask. Often it's literally balls of energy and various colors of balls of energy, um,
Right.
of light. So that's to me just fascinating. And when people meet with someone on the other side or in spirit realm that they know and love, and that ball of light, or however the being appears, embraces them, clients often are just brought to tears. I mean, it's very moving for them. So kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of get that when I use my pendulum now. I am
Yeah.
I see in like the aura around the pendulum for each different person I'm speaking with. And I'm just
Sweet.
recently starting to connect with, okay, I need to speak with somebody about this topic. And then I narrow it down. I'm finding out who is that person that works with this particular topic. It's been so cool. So yeah, and the connection is just seeing the light around my pendulum. It
That's very
shows,
cool.
yeah, and
Sure.
it's showing who's who. So I'm working on it. I just got started on it, but it's like really cool. And it's the same with the balls of light that people are seeing. Is each color is a different being that they are connected
They
to.
connect with. Yeah.
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 Very
And we've
cool.
been
Very
so
cool.
trained in our Western culture for the most part to not believe ourselves. I love some of the science fiction movies that come out, some of the Disney Pixar movies that are out that talk about, uh, for example, Soul. And I think they had Soul 2, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of these concepts are being downloaded into our general culture to raise the consciousness of us all as a whole. If you would have asked me if I would have been doing this, 10 years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, that's very nice that you believe that, but not so much,
Yeah.
right?
two
I
years
mean,
ago for me.
I would have been like, no, I was like,
Yeah.
is that even possible? Yeah. So at any rate, yeah, we all live and we all learn and we all grow. Hopefully, at least, if we're open to that kind of thing.
Yeah. Totally agree. I completely. And it's at least my journey has gone so quick. I mean, I can't believe it's been 2 years being on this podcast now. And it's like, oh my goodness, the stuff that I've learned. And hopefully everybody else out there is learning like what you're talking about. I mean, there's just so much to learn.
There is. It's hard to get it all done in one lifetime.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, definitely.
So,
Definitely.
yes, and soulmates are a thing. And they're not always exactly what you might anticipate. I mean, people who contract on the other side to come in with an individual, their partner, husband, wife, spouse, whatever that is, it may be for the purpose of this lifetime to have certain things that they learn. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be in a forever relationship in the, Disney princess and prince charming kind of thing. It may mean that they've agreed to have this difficult and challenging relationship to try to overcome those difficulties and challenges, right? Part of that growth is being more willing to be open, more willing to allow others to have their own journeys, more willing to just be a support for another individual unconditionally. And that unconditional love is really fundamental to our learning. Yeah, that. So spiritual
Absolutely.
studies are fascinating. So some people learn energy work. They learn how to build things in energy with energy on the other side. They may be learning about consciousness or growing consciousness, or they they have cultural interests, kind of like social studies for various planets. Like there's an endless list of special studies. And it's almost like Harry Potter world, really, at some level to me, where I'll go with a client to their classroom and, tell me what kinds of things you're learning here. And what's your professor look like? What do the other people look like here? And are they part of your soul group? Or are they part of a different soul group? And what color are you here? How do you appear to yourself? So again, it's open-ended questions from my viewpoint, just to sort of see where folks are at, because I think some of these things are deeply moving for folks. They're really like, unless you really study this stuff, I mean, like, who would know that these are even things? Who would even guess that this is a possibility? Right. So,
Right.
yeah. Then moving on to another fascinating area, which is the pre-life selection. And like, for example, I'll tell you about one of my clients, and she went to a place, and again, all of the places look slightly different for various clients, but she said, there's a wardrobe in front of me, and yes, my guide is here, and I'm opening the wardrobe, and there are 5 bodies to try on. And I said, well, what would you like to do? Well, I'd like to try this one on first. I'm like, okay, what one does this look like? Oh, this is like a 6th dimensional being. I can move energy with my mind. And she's an orange, like sparkly being, and very ethereal and spirit kind of, thing. And I'm like, oh, that sounds lovely. What about the next one? Well, my guide wants me to try this on, but I do not want to try it on. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like if your guide wants you to do it, like,
Yeah,
right? I'm like,
dude.
want to be the nudge, but like, you're here for a reason. Like, what do I know? At any rate, it was a being that was like a suit that was kind of insectoid. Is that a word?
It's a new one to me if it is.
Right. I mean, and it was like, I mean, like to describe it in probably our language, it was a very tiny, even though she was putting it on. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm so tiny. I'm like, I can't believe I'm so tiny. Like, and how did that go? What did you think about that? And she said, well, the reason my guide wanted to try it on is because it was the lesson was even small things make a difference. At any rate, the next one she tried on was a Dutch girl from the 1700s. I'm like, how's that working, right? Yeah, she had on like wooden shoes and, could in the background see like tulips and windmills and, a hat and whatever apron and whatever she was wearing. And I'm like, well, that's fascinating. And of course, when we're in spirit realm, everything is telepathic. So not only do the
Right.
guides know what my client is thinking and saying out loud, they also know what I'm thinking, right? And I'm thinking, okay, that's just odd. That's really interesting, but like it's past, right? And so the next comment that comes out of her mouth is, oh, my guy just wanted to let you know that you can raise your sail on the winds of time because they blow anywhere. So,
Ooh.
right, because it's all happening now.
Ooh.
I mean, there are
Yeah.
people who speak to this that, like, even though we go back to a past life, it makes more sense. It's easier for our brain than to go to future lives. And every once in a while, my clients do go to future lives. So, all into the gateway, often it requires a past life death. And I don't necessarily want their in their linear brain to think about a future life death.
Right. Or even the current life death. I mean, have you had
No,
someone
we
do
never do
that?
that.
Okay, good.
We never do that. There are certain like guidelines of that is just not happening.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, I've had clients come in my office that, oh my gosh, one woman who is probably no longer on the planet. She was taking chemotherapy every single week because she was trying to stave off death because she had a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old and 25 spots of cancer on her liver, and she'd done all sorts of chemo. And there was no more like big fix. It was more like she kept choosing. And then the reason she came to me is because she had 8 different kinds of therapies that she wanted to try, and she wasn't sure which one. And I'm kind of like, wow, I mean, I get that you don't want to die. And I'm here to help whatever you need. I'm just the cheerleader, right? So her divine counsel asked her, why do you want to live? What is it? And she said, well, my children, right? And they're like, your kids are going to be just fine. So why do you want to live? And she couldn't come up with quote another reason. So as we were finishing up her session, her dad stepped forward. And sometimes that happens. I invite anybody who is in the spirit world, and her dad had already crossed, but people can still show up even if they haven't already died in this lifetime. But her dad showed up and said, basically, honey, it's going to be okay. I just want to hug you. I just want to hold you and let you know it's going to be okay. Client wasn't ready to hear that. Spent a lot of time in the healing and restoration area because she wanted to heal. And I'm like, I'm just navigating. I'll go wherever you want to go. No judgment, like whatever you choose is fine. But I thought it was really beautiful that her father came through, that her dad, who had already passed on, and said, honey, it's going to be okay. So that.
Yeah,
Anyway.
that sounds beautiful. I mean, what a way
Yeah.
to get the confirmation that you can go
Right.
ahead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And her counsel said, you can choose any one of these 8 that you want to choose. It's on you. You get to pick. Free will. Get to
Well,
do whatever you want. Yeah. Her entire day had been spent healing herself with whatever it was, hyperbaric oxygen or this or that or the other, all kinds of meditations and really working with, nutrition and all of those things. So, at any rate, I wish her well wherever she is. She was a beautiful soul, beautiful woman.
yeah.
Is wherever she is.
Is yeah. We I said that today, with a friend that is no longer working in the same company. And you go to look think of it as like, oh, he used to be he was funny. It's like, wait, no, he still is. Just because he's not
Right.
working here doesn't mean he, is so crazy how we think of things because they're
Right.
not in physical form in front of us. We think of them as in the past,
Right.
and we're
Right.
not.
They're
We
not.
are we are not. We're
Everything is
always
all here all
here.
now, just tuning into the right frequency, right? So
Exactly.
some of my current learning is because I'm interested in this like merger of consciousness. I'm taking a class. I'll just put in a plug for Jamie Butler. Went to Sedona, did her
Okay.
Art of Trance class. That was amazing. And actually took my husband of 44 years with me. And he was kind of cool with it, which was fun. He's also a chiropractor in town. So at any rate, it was kind of cool. And
That's cool.
she's now teaching trance channeling. She's got currently multiple classes. I mean, just the woman is one of those teachers who really puts in huge amounts of effort to be a professional and to do whatever she can to bring information to her students and be very attentive individually. And she's got thousands of students, so that's
Yeah.
remarkable.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love Maitland.
Oh, okay. So you know.
I know. I love Maitland. She is
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
cool. Well, maybe
She's
I'll see you
awesome.
in one of these classes upcoming for
Oh,
her.
at some point, maybe. I mean, I'm still kind of working on the smaller classes right now, but
What
it's
is a
going to come
small
along.
class? I mean, like
Well, smaller
anything you work on is like,
money wise.
oh, fair enough. Yeah,
Yeah,
fair
yeah.
enough.
But no, I am actually in a class right now with Aaron Doty, and it's on how to build a successful company, a business.
Beautiful.
So I'm working on that one right now. So, and I have this huge, strong feeling that by the end of the year, my business is going to kick off. So
Sweet.
so
Okay, so
I,
tell me about your business, Dana.
oh,
Inquiring
okay,
minds
okay.
want to know.
I took some classes with Kim Nichols. She's a psychic medium, and to learn how to read oracle cards. So I do oracle cards now, and I do photo reads of past life. And no, that was not spirit. That was a fuzz from my blanket that just went through. Um, so I do photos. I read photos of loved ones that have passed. And yeah,
Beautiful.
so I'm so excited. I'm working on getting things moving to where I'm gonna go into dream readings. So I am just so
Beautiful.
excited. It goes back to that speechless thing. I'm just so excited. I just
I hear you. And really, isn't that, I mean, I think that's what Char always says, follow your passion, follow your excitement, and follow it. And I have my big Bashar coffee mug around here somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
He's he's fascinating. Oh my gosh. She's like,
Uh,
wow, there's so many amazing teachers that just are and the and perhaps we will leave on this note. Let me just share with you that consciousness is changing. I am on international forums with other spiritual hypnotherapists. For QHHT, there are probably 100,000 practitioners that do that work. In addition, the Life Between Lives, it's a little bit like maybe the Olympics of hypnotherapy. We have about 200 people who have kind of completed that work. And I just attended the World Conference in Barcelona last year in November,
nice.
and we're all talking about how consciousness is changing. Getting people into hypnosis is different. It's at some level easier because people are just, they're more able. I mean, and the crazy part is I'm like booked out 2 months already. I mean, my
Oh,
spirit
good for
team is
you.
totally on the project of bringing in whoever needs to come in and
Hmm.
whatever it is, we need to share and talk about and be passionate about
Yep.
and really enjoy that sharing and that connection with each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's great stuff. Whatever you choose, do something you love because that's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Love
It
what you
is
do what you
love.
love, right? And you'll never work a
Yeah.
day in your life.
No, I mean,
So
I do these podcasts, and it's like, it's really crazy. I can come into this podcast and not just kind of, just kind of, here I am. And as soon as I click on opening up my Zoom and seeing my guests, I just like instantly like, oh, I am. I mean, this is just like so exciting. I can't wait to see what happens today. And I'm just like, oh, I get on this high, and I'm just like, flying out. And it's so cool. And I can't wait to go into my first show in June.
awesome.
I got myself a table in an expo. So that'll be my first time doing that. So I'm like, oh, stoked.
Love to hear the
So,
details.
oh, it's I'm excited. I mean, again, there I go. I went speechless because I don't know how to explain the excitement that I have for this whole all of this. I mean, for what you do, for what everybody else does out there, all these Reiki people, everybody and their skills, how we come together to be as one. And oh,
To be of
it's just
service to
beautiful.
humanity, right?
Yes, it's
That's what
just
we are
beautiful.
doing. Yeah,
It's absolutely
nice.
beautiful. Oh, well, awesome. Do you have any last words for anybody or?
I'd say if you're interested in a session, my
Mhm.
website is there, Reno Life Between Lives. Anticipate it's going to be a couple of months out. And for the QHHT, it must be in person. So I can do a past life regression initially and then a Life Between Lives by Zoom. But for QHHT, specifically Dolores Cannon's method, in person would be great. So I do have clients that fly in. Um, Stay in Reno somewhere, and my office is close, not far from the airport. So kind of that. Yeah,
Very awesome. Very awesome. Well, congrats on your journey and boy, enjoy the ride.
yeah, totally. All right. Take care. Be well, Dana. Thank you so much for
All
today.
right. Thank you
Appreciate
for
you.
being with us. Yes. And if anybody else out there has any stories you would like to share or have experienced, please email me. Let's get you on the show. Let's have share our experiences to let everybody know that we're not alone. This is what's going on out there, and it's okay to talk about it. So let me know. Email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. And we will talk with everybody later. Bye.
Bye.